I was talking about the different positions that somebody should have on in the agile um, in the agile PMO. So as I was saying, you should definitely have the team that I mentioned earlier, and we're talking about the PMO director, an agile coach, scrum master, product owner, project management or project managers, and also business analysts. I think business analyst is one of the positions that I have seen some companies embrace, rightfully so, and some companies, they often have the project managers perform the business analyst roles as well. And I would like to tell you, they are not the same. Project managers should focus on project management, agile knowledge, communication, and collaboration. Business analysts should be focused on the analytical thinking, the communication, and understanding both business needs and technical aspects. So you should really have a business analyst that can work with the stakeholders to gather requirements, define the project scope, and also ensure the projects within the portfolio aligns with business needs. And so in an agile PMO, they really help refine those stories, the user stories, to ensure clarity for the team. So at the PMO level, they don't get into the details of the projects, but they can be the one that provide QA, if you will, on what other business analysts are doing.
Oh, great. It's incredible, all this information, Dr. Jimmy. So now I see why this concept of Agile PMO is boosting, right? The innovation, the adaptability, and the efficiency of the companies. So looking into this, what are the skills that the project managers are going to need, right? Or traditional project managers, what they need to start learning now because the world is moving into that direction? What would be your suggestion there?
Oh, what should they learn? I talked earlier about the depth and the breadth of knowledge when it comes to project managers. So I find myself, I always say I am one of the odd ones out there. I'm kind of really addicted to knowledge, but I would say project managers need to be curious and stay curious. There are some fundamentals. So all project managers should definitely embrace project management knowledge. And the way you certify that, I would say you should definitely have your PMP. Now, does that mean all project managers should have PMPs? I would say all good and great project managers should have the PMP. Does the PMP make you a good project manager? No, not at all. The PMP doesn't do anything. What the PMP, I mean, in terms of practical, what the PMP does, it gives you this acknowledgement that you understand the framework to deliver project management. I would say this way, you can have a bad project managers with a PMP, but you should definitely, just like you have doctors, you have bad doctors with a with an MD, right?
Mhm.
But I will tell you, all great doctors have an MD. So if you don't have that certification to say that, I mean, lawyers, you have bad lawyers, right, who pass the bar. But I will tell you, all great lawyers pass the bar. So if you're a project manager, you've been doing it for a long time, I will definitely state you should really have the PMP. That's number one. You also need to deepen your knowledge in agile project management. Agile is a mindset, yes, indeed. However, is agile a mindset because we heard about it, or did you take some trainings to really deepen your knowledge in agile to know it is a mindset? Because until you know how to follow the rules, it's really hard for you to break the rules. So I definitely will recommend get some additional knowledge in agile project management. Third, I do not believe in this notion of project manager, and I will repeat it. And I'm a few out there. I do not believe in project manager. I'm not saying I don't believe in project management. I say I don't believe in project manager. My experience has proven project managers are glorified note takers, or call it project coordinators. If you reach the level you are leading in major initiatives, I would highly recommend you focus on what I call project leadership. Project leadership is your ability to work with other people to get things done. When you are managing risk, when you're managing scope, when you're managing the budget and so forth, you are doing the project management components. That does not move the dial. What moves the dial is the people that you work with to work with those resources that I just mentioned to take the project from point A to point B. And let me challenge you this on this one. Everything that a project manager does outside the human interaction, everything from the project initiation to the project closing can be automated. I have news for you. Have been automated. The one thing we cannot automate is your interaction with people. The one thing we cannot automate is how you can motivate people to get things done. The one thing we can automate is you engaging with resources, with the engineers, with the product owner. It's you negotiating, it's you identifying the goal of the business, the priorities of the business. It's you leveraging common sense, leveraging your experience, your prioritization to really get things done. That cannot be automated yet. It will come soon, but not yet. General AI is breathing down our neck to get those things done. Thus, I will highly recommend, I'm even going to go a little bit further. I will highly recommend project managers currently should definitely develop communities to learn from each other. And talking about taking your game to the next level, if you're in an organization and you are doing the same thing day in, day out, how in the world do you expect to know something different if you're not in a community where you are talking with other people from different organizations so you can learn the other things that they're doing? So I highly recommend create communities if you want, join communities if you want, even paid communities, so you can get the knowledge from people who've been before you. Because otherwise, if you're okay and where you are, if you're fine of what you're doing, completely ignore what I just said. Completely ignore it. But if you want to take your career to the next level, if you want to increase your knowledge from what you know today to what you will know tomorrow, if you want to increase your career path by 1 degree on a daily basis, I will say get your knowledge, get your PMP, get your Agile certification if you want, join some communities, expand your knowledge and tools and framework. And what is best to get all of that done? To the PMO training
Correct.
certification.
That's exactly right. Everything that you mentioned is fully tied out the PMO, right? That's the place for the project managers. That is like the house
Yeah.
for the project managers. Community is something that, at least on my case, has impacted me a lot. I mean, be able to share even painful moments, right,
Mm-hmm.
with other people and hear back comments, how to do things in a different way. It is incredible. And yeah, that's something that I definitely, in addition to the trainings, I would recommend all the people here go and join communities. So going back to this conversation on Agile, Dr. Jimmy, what are the metrics when we are looking into Agile Office? So how do we measure an Agile Office compared to the traditional PMO Office? So what would you look into that? I mean, it's complex. So that's the reason I ask you.
Fernando, you have some tough questions.
So it is because it's so new that the terminology is agile, is PMO. It seems to me that it's more like water and oil, try to put together, but you just prove that they are not, and the world is changing to the point that we need these things together.
Yes.
So, but there are things so new for everybody that we would need to start figuring it out, right? So the metrics, for example, how do you measure successful for a
Yeah.
PMO, agile
So
PMO?
I would say the jury is out. The jury is out, and I'm talking personally, my experience in terms of setting up an agile PMO and then evaluate the success rate on the long term. What I will tell you for the past, let's see, let me make sure I get the year correct. I would say close to 20 years. I was working on a very complex projects. And that's when Agile first came out, Agile Project Management first came out. And the project was so big, it was so big and expensive, and there were so many people involved. I know traditional project management was not going to cut it. So what I did at the program level, I believe we had about 12 projects within the program. We kind of figure out, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to eat that elephant one bite at a time? So what we decided to do, we followed the traditional project management to set it up. And that's when we had infrastructure work, we had application work, we had change management work. So we said, okay, we're going to go down to the basics: people, process, technology. People, process, technology. Keep it simple. Now, as we categorize those projects within those buckets that I just mentioned, we discovered some projects had to follow the traditional project management because they fell within a process that we could not get out of that process because the process worked. So if something works, why move away from it? So we left those projects that were focused on the process component to stay within the traditional project management. Then we discovered we were doing things that were never done before. There was not a playbook to figure those things out. So we say, you know what? We're going to leverage Agile project management for those projects. So we had those there. Dealing with people, we just pray because people are unpredictable. So,
Exactly.
right? So now,
Emotions drive everybody. So and those are unpredictable.
oh, definitely. And when you're dealing with all major organizational change, people fear. People fear how they don't know how the work is going to be impacted. We did not even know because we were as fearful as them. The good news is we're the one implementing the change. So we had traditional, then we had agile. And to your point, the question was, we know traditional had to measure, right? Because we had KPIs identified. And the question for us was, how in the world we're going to justify the agile? Because I did find resistance. And that's when I learned to remove the term agile. I did not tell the company we're doing agile while we're just doing project management. But we know as the core team, we were leveraging agile methodologies and practices to get the work done without naming it. So if you're an organization and agile is new and you're trying to implement it, don't baptize it, just do it. Now, if your organization has some type of maturity, then you can do that. What is the number one? The number one metric that I've discovered for agile projects that I rolled up today in Agile PMO is my interaction with people. What is the value that I bring to the table? What is the value of those projects? So number one for me was customer satisfaction. Regularly collect feedback from your customers, your stakeholders, your interested parties to gauge the satisfaction with the outcomes delivered by those agile projects. Now, that can be done through surveys, interviews, net promoter scores, if you will, and customer satisfaction scores and qualitative feedback is what really help us because all those agile projects, because we didn't know, we were very fearful on how we were doing it, so we kind of stick to the agile processes to make sure we're doing it right. People were saying, you guys are doing things differently. And not only that, they were saying, and then the reason they were saying, because we were delivering value faster to the agile projects. But they didn't know what we were doing. When you measure the value delivered by those projects in terms of business impact, revenue growth, cost savings, strategic advantage, all of this can involve tracking what we call key performance indicators linked to the organization. Keep in mind what I said at the beginning. At the portfolio level, we had those KPIs and we had those projects. We divide the projects between agile and traditional, but at the KPI level, it was no different, right? People were looking at it, okay, we have your scorecard and we're looking at the numbers, but it was evident all the agile projects were delivering value faster. Velocity and throughput, the speed at which the teams were completing, we were really seeing things pretty much every 3 weeks. And they said, wow, we've never seen things like that before. So your sprint velocity, your cycle time, and your lead time will also help. Team performance and productivity. All of a sudden, the teams who were doing the agile projects, they become superstar. not because they were superstar, because they were delivering things, right? But the output of the work and the achievement of the sprint goals within the team, it makes you feel good because you are crossing things off and people seeing your work, you get to do some more work and all that. Agility and adaptability. Measure the ability of the PMO and the teams to adapt to changes. I mentioned earlier about the cost adjustment. Sometimes you get, and that was the thing that really helped my career when it comes to agility, is this notion, even if I start with a budget of $100 million the beginning of the year, chances are I'm not gonna end with that budget at the end of the year. So I know somehow, somewhere I'm gonna get some challenges. So how do I react? How do I adapt to project scope change, to priorities, to customer needs? When you prepare for those things, when they happen, they don't throw you for a loop because you are expecting it, right? So frequency of scope changes accepted, time taken to implement those changes, success rate, and a couple of two, I would say, process efficiencies. If your organization do not have processes, it's going to be very hard, regardless what you're going to implement, for you to see the value of it. Evaluate the efficiency of your agile processes by monitoring waste reduction, streamline workflows, elimination of bottlenecks, and employee engagement and satisfaction. If the people who are doing it, they're not engaged, if the people who are implementing agile are grumpy, people are going to feel it, people are going to see it. I would say that's why leadership, for me, is paramount in anything that you're going to be doing that deals with people. You can be the best agilist, you can be the best traditionalist, you can have any hats that you want to put on. If you cannot lead people to deliver, to move the dial, you tell me how effective you are, regardless of your certifications, regardless of your knowledge, depth, and breadth. The key fundamental is, how do you lead people to implement those projects?
Wow, it is. I think that's gonna go down to that part, right? Be able to move, to lead, the soft skills, right? These skills that I don't know why they call it soft. Sometimes are really the hard skills. It is amazing. Just going back to your my notes and conversation with you, customer satisfaction really catch my attention because it's usually on traditional PMOs and project managers, it's happen only on certain points, sometimes even to the end, right? But
Mhm.
what you just described is a more close relation with the customer where you just probably getting customer feedback pretty soon. I mean, every time. So that is probably what I see is changing, right? You are listening really quick the customer point of view, right? You are trying to put things quickly on the customer to listen back and ask the question, this is the right and okay, should I go back? So that is great. So now it makes a lot of sense why these agile PMO are busting adaptability, innovation, and of course efficiencies with all these things, right? So
Yes.
just to finalize, Dr. Jimmy, we are gonna have a couple of questions from the audience, but what are the frameworks that you see happening right now within this Agile PMO? What are the new frameworks to manage projects that we will be facing, the new framework that we will be seeing pretty soon, or what actually they are happening right now? But what are those frameworks that now are going to be part of the PMO on daily activities?
Um, there are some fundamental ones. By the way, is my camera still working? You still see me, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we can see you. Yes.
All right. So there are tools and frameworks, and I like to have analogies. The way I look at it is, if I'm doing the summertime, I'm going to do some work at my house. Let's say I'm gonna do some flooring or put some molding, and I either take a bunch of nails and a hammer, or I get a nail gun, right? If I know what I'm doing, a nail
Mhm.
gun is going to be very effective. I'm gonna do it very, very quick and very well. If I do not know what I'm doing, I have a nail gun in my hand, I'm going to destroy that floor. I'm going to destroy whatever I'm doing because I'm dealing with power. I'm dealing with a machine, and I have no idea what I'm doing, I might as well stuck with my hammer and my nail. I'm saying that before I get into the frameworks, there are a lot of tools out there that really facilitate people when it comes to when it comes to Agile. You have Jira. Jira is a popular tool for managing Agile projects, particularly Scrum and Kanban. By the way, this is not a promotion. I'm sharing with audience the tools that I've used in the past that I'm very familiar with. Trello is another one. It's simpler. It's visual tool that use boards, lists, and cards to manage tasks. Asana is another one. Azure DevOps another one. I mean, there are so many tools out there to the point it becomes overwhelming. But those are just tools. Remember, those are just tools. Now, those tools try to fit themselves within framework. And that's why I mentioned the tools for before I mentioned the framework. Some popular frameworks for Agile project management. You have Scrum. It's one of the most widely adopted Agile frameworks that focuses on delivering incremental value through short time box iterations that we call sprints, right? You have Scrum Master, product owner, development team, and so on and so forth. So if you are dealing with Agile, Scrum should not be foreign to you. Kanban is another one. I never really see Kanban as a framework, really, because it's a visual workflow management that the team used to visualize the work, limit work in progress. It's a tool, really, to optimize workflow. Another framework that I've seen that I've experienced value is the Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFe. It's designed for large organizations that need to scale Agile practices across multiple teams. It provides a structured approach to aligning teams, programs, and also portfolios with the organization's strategic goals. If you are in management in your organization, I would say it's big. It's hard to define big. Is it 100 and more, 50,000 and more? I would say at least if you're a project manager, you're doing Agile, just get some knowledge in SAFe. Because today you may be in this organization, tomorrow you may be in another organization. You also have large scale Scrum. You also have discipline Agile. All those frameworks pretty much fall within the construct of it. But my latest knowledge has been the Agile PMO to the PMO Global Institute. It's a wonderful. I'm trying to see if I find my manuals here. It's a wonderful training that pretty much take you to all the components of Agile. I highly recommend it. Again, you may not need it in terms of currently in your organization, but my grandmother always tell me you don't make your bed while you're sleepy. So I would say take the CBPMO training if you can, take the Agile PMO if you can, because those will expand your knowledge, and they have to. Those will expand your knowledge, open your knowledge, and then as you join communities, then it will help you make those things will come to fruition. As a matter of fact, you never know. By taking those trainings, you can transform your current organization. You don't take those trainings to get you ready to leave. You take those trainings to come home and change home. That would be those were the frameworks I could highlight, Fernando.
Thank you, Dr. Jimmy. No, those are great. I mean, for everybody here, we are part of this transformation. Projects transform the world, right? Actually, we are going to have another webinar to talk about project economy in a month. I highly invite everybody because that's the topic, right? How projects are transforming the world. And we as a project managers, we need to be up to date with the latest trainings, with the latest information, with the latest tools to make sure we can transform the world. As Dr. Jimmy mentioned, guys, these are tools, right? Tools. It's like my mom used to say, you had a soup, but not because you had the best spoon, the soup is going to taste better. So you had to work with the spoon to be able to move the soup around, but you had to work yourself to make sure you can produce the right soup, right? The tasty soup. So Thank you for your time, Dr. Jimmy. We have some time for a few questions from the audience. Let me go really quick. The first question is coming from Jose Valencia, and he's asking, how does the organizational culture of mid-sizes Latin American enterprise can influence the adoption of agile project management offices? What is the best approach on that? I mean, I
Yeah,
think the question is more related to Latin America. That is an area that is currently embracing project management. So that's an interesting question here.
yeah, that is an interesting question. So how does the organizational culture of mid-sized Latin American enterprises influence the adoption of agile project management offices, correct?
Correct. Mhm.
So I have not had a chance to, let's see, have I? I have not done any professional work in in Latin American businesses. I have seen or have been exposed to some professional work in the continents of Africa, Europe, and of course, North America. That's Canada and the US, not even Mexico. I will mention this, and by visiting so many countries in the world, by doing so many humanitarian projects or service projects in so many countries, I'm going to make this statement. And again, think of this, I have not been to South America. As a matter of fact, I want to go to Brazil and Mexico so bad, but I have not been yet. There is this culture that you have to be mindful of. And the culture is where you are. It is no different, I want to believe, when you move from one organization to another organization, when you move from one industry to another industry. So if I were to bring my expertise, whether it is in a corporate environment, Fortune 500, 100 companies, I want to believe it's not going to be the same if I'm working with a startup, which is not. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the same if I bring the same knowledge in a nonprofit organization, which is not. Because I will tell you that much. Nonprofit organizations are very special because many people join nonprofit, they join for a cause. They don't join for profit. Private organizations are driven by profit. So when we are driven by profit, we all know why we are here. It's easier to drive people because there is a profit at the end. When you're working with nonprofit organization where people join for the cause, not for profit, and many of them are volunteers who have the will, but they don't have the skills, you're dealing with a whole different beast. You go ahead and manage an organization, then go ahead and manage a set of volunteers and come back and tell me your experience. It's two different things. You also have this notion, if I were to go into higher ed, that would be completely different. So those have been my experiences. What has been consistent, regardless of their hierarchical structures, and my experience with the Caribbean, I would say speculate. Traditional Latin American businesses tend to be very hierarchical with decision making concentrated at the top, right? Which can cause problem with Agile, where Agile talking about self-organizing team and decentralized authority. But make no mistakes, we find that in several organizations with all the different industry that I just mentioned. This is not a country constraint. This is an organization constraint. This is where leadership takes precedence. Remember what I said earlier. You can learn all of those tools. If you cannot influence up, down, sideways, you're most likely not going to make much progress. So to keep the answer short, I will say the organizational structure matter. You need to know where you are, because if I go to South America, I open a corporation, I probably will manage it based on my values and principle from North America. I will be a North American business in South America, right? But you need to recognize your culture. You need to recognize where you are. And the best approach to mitigate this impact hierarchical structures, relationship-oriented culture, risk aversion culture. Companies do not have process and documentation, the power distance, all of those things. What I would say that you could do to mitigate that will be leadership buy-in in education, gradual adoption. I mentioned earlier, do not baptize it, do not put a label on it. Culture adaptation, know where you are, training and coaching, clear communication, and always focus on the hybrid approaches. Even if you're implementing Agile, don't just come in and bring your Agile thing and expect everybody to adopt it. If they're not traditional, start with traditional and slowly lean into Agile.
No, yeah, that's great. Thank you, Dr. Jim. That's a great advice. I have another one here. We already passed the time. Just one or two more questions here. Had you seen any major difference in doing agile between private and public sector? I mean, had you noticed a difference between those two groups who embrace perhaps more?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier. I would say the I've been fortunate to sit at the technology oversight committee for the city of Portland, which is part of a public sector. My experience has been, as I mentioned, the sector does play a difference in terms of the standards instead of constantly the processes, the integration interactions between groups and 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 what is at stake. The risk appetite may be different because in the private and some organizations, again, I try oftentimes not to box myself within where I'm at, whether I'm dealing with higher ed or whether I am providing some type of counselor with the technology oversight committee for the city of Portland, or whether it is in the private sector where I have pretty much dealt my whole professional career. What matters is usually value in people. It is value in people. Yes, each sector will bring their own constraints. So if somebody would tell you the way you deal in a private non, I'm going to even make it even more interesting. If I were to tell you I can implement certain methodology in a Fortune 500 company or a Fortune 100 company, the same way I could implement that for a startup, you should not believe me because the goals are different. If I were to tell you I can take the same concept and apply them to a nonprofit organizations that are doing service projects in Africa, that are doing service projects in Asia, you should not believe me because they're different. The constraints are different. The funding model is different. The value delivery is different. What remains constant is the leadership component. That's what you cannot get out of. Because leadership is self-awareness. Leadership is authenticity. Leadership is trust. Leadership is set up vision. Leadership is having courage. Leadership is knowledge. Leadership is building teams. You lose all those components. May the force be with you.
Well, great, Dr. Jimmy. Well, I really want to thank you for your time. This has been a really great great session in regards Agile PMO. I want to thank everybody here for your time with us. I'm sorry that I was not able to go through all the questions, but we will do our best to answer those by emails, so everybody get an answer on that. Uh, this is great. And as I mentioned, uh, just work with yourself, soft skills. Actually, we are about to launch a CCA PMO certification coming out of the PMO on September the 21st. This will help you to increase your skills to level up, as Dr. Jimmy mentioned, to start learning more about what is coming, right? About the PMOs and how these things are changing so quickly and so fast that we need to be updated, right? Sometimes it's things changing so fast that even impossible to keep up, but we have to do our best. So as I said, we are one certification coming on September 21st for the CA. I'm pretty sure Dr. Jimmy will have one coming for Agile pretty soon also. We will be in contact with everybody. And remember, guys, the PMO or the Agile PMO are boosting the innovation, the adaptability, and the efficiency of organizations pretty much all around the world. So this is something that is already here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time.